Welcome back. The government of Ontario has presented its latest budget this afternoon after the close of markets at 4 p.m. Ontario's government has delayed its goal of balancing the budget by another year, with the shortfall now projected to be more than triple in the coming years. The deficit is expected to be almost $10 billion for the upcoming fiscal year. That's the biggest shortfall since the beginning of the pandemic. Ontario Finance Minister Peter Bethlen-Falvey said the province, quote, is not immune to global forces that are slowing economic growth. The government now expects to balance its budget in fiscal 2026-2027. That's a year later than its guidance just in November of last year. Benjamin Tal is Deputy Chief Economist at CIBC. He joins us to talk about this and some other stories in the world of macroeconomics and central banks. Benjamin, thank you as always for joining us. I'm not sure how much you've seen of the Ontario budget, but you've probably heard that top line description. The takeaway is that Ontario is going to wait a little longer before balancing its budget. This sounds like the consequences of higher interest rates and slowing economies.
Absolutely, no surprise whatsoever. You cannot really balance your budget when your economy is in a recession. And the Ontario economy is in a per capita recession. Per capita GDP and consumption is actually negative. So it's very difficult to balance your books when you have this kind of revenue story. So I'm not surprised by any stretch of the imagination by this number. Remember, they still have a lot of spending on infrastructure, on retroactive money to healthcare workers, and all kinds of other things. So I don't think that they will be able to do it anytime soon. They need to see lower interest rates. They need to see the economy recovering, the revenue base to grow, and that's what's happening this year.
What kind of conditions will the government want to see before it can become oriented on reducing and eliminating ultimately the deficit?
Yeah, we definitely have to get out of this per capita recession. The economy of Ontario is hardly growing now. Again, not because of what's happening in Ontario, but Ontario is not immune, as you said, to what's happening globally, to what's happening in the economy as a whole. Canada is toying with a recession. The only game in town is really the US economy. All the rest, Japan, Germany, the Eurozone, basically negative or flat. So this is, we are in good company, if you wish. So this is something that they cannot do anything about. This is not their doing. This is just the global economy. And that will take a while. We need to see the economy recovering. A precondition for that, of course, is lower interest rates. And we expect the Bank of Canada to start helping governments in Canada by cutting interest rates in June of this year.
Okay, well, let's go there. Interesting that you're calling for June. Other BoC watchers are calling for July. How does the Bank of Canada fit into the Fed? We can't ignore the Fed, of course. The Bank of Canada surely pays attention to what the Fed is saying and doing. Can the Bank of Canada cut its benchmark interest rate in the absence of a Fed cut?
Yeah, so first of all, June or July, really, from a macroeconomic perspective, the unemployment rate, inflation doesn't make any difference. It's just a calendar. So no, that's not a big deal. Clearly, the question is, which is a bigger deal, to what extent the Bank of Canada can divorce itself from the Fed. People say that whatever happens with the Fed, the Bank of Canada will have to follow. And I'm saying not so quick here, because we have to realize one thing. We have to realize that in the last budget, in the last cycle, we have seen a situation in which the gap between the Fed and the Bank of Canada was significant. The Fed ended their hiking campaign at 2.5. The Bank of Canada ended it as 1.75. That's before COVID. So a significant gap. Why? Because the effectiveness of monetary policy in Canada is higher. Our mortgages are for 5 years. Their mortgages are for 30 years. So in Canada, it takes much more quickly to feel the pain. Also, we have more debt. Therefore, we are more sensitive to higher interest rates. So the Bank of Canada is more powerful than the mighty Fed, if you wish. And that's why interest rates in the US have to be higher than interest rates in Canada in order to achieve the same trajectory. Today, the gap is basically 25 basis points. So something is not adding up here.
One of the immediate consequences of the Bank of Canada cutting in the absence of a cut by the Fed would be a weaker Canadian dollar. Take us through that dynamics and what it would mean to the Canadian economy in the short term.
Absolutely. So first of all, I think that the Bank of Canada can easily cut by 50 basis points without the Fed joining, because we simply will establish the previous gaps that we have seen before that are more neutral and basically what we need to see in the economy. That's one thing. Clearly, when the Bank of Canada is cutting and the Fed is not cutting, the Canadian dollar will suffer. That's something that the Bank of Canada would like to avoid. But if they have no choice, they will do it.
Senior Deputy Governor Carolyn Rogers made some interesting comments in Halifax today on productivity. And at one point, she used the word emergency. And she said, you know, when you see that pane of glass and it says, in an emergency, break the glass. Well, it's time to break the glass, is what she told her audience in Halifax. Declining productivity has been a concern, I know, among economists like yourself for some time. I assume you agree with her that productivity is a problem here in Canada. What are some of the remedies to the productivity problem here in Canada?
Absolutely, we have to break this glass. The question is, how you break that glass? That's the question, because it's very complicated. There are many reasons why productivity in Canada is lagging, and some of them we simply cannot fix. Because let's face it, if you are a startup, you have a brilliant idea, where are you going to market it? In Canada or the US? In a bigger market. So being a neighbor to a very big economy is a curse when it comes to productivity and innovation, and that's exactly what's happening. But I think that the number one thing that we can do very quickly is to eliminate the tariff, if you wish, or the negatives to growth and trade between provinces, among provinces. This is something that is really hurting our productivity growth. We have to do something to eliminate all those barriers to make sure that we are a much more efficient market. We have to invest more in research and development. We have to encourage risk-taking. We have to provide seed money to startups. There are many things to do. We know what to do. We just have to do it.